what exactly was it like growing up with him as your father? Were you aware of his fame or who he was, or was he just dad?
Yeah, so of course I was aware of it. How could you not be? I wrote a whole memoir about it. Like that's
Hmm.
the long answer is read my book. The slightly shorter answer is watch the documentary, which doesn't have all of my stuff in it, but it's got a lot of our family stuff in it. But yeah, I was aware of him, and especially when I was um, when he became the counterculture guy and we'd travel with him a lot in the summers. Before that, even Vegas, I'd see him open for the Supremes and stuff like that, see him on television a little bit. But I was pretty young during those days. But yeah, very aware. But the thing about that lifestyle, the thing about having that family is it's your normal.
Right.
uh, you don't really think about when you're a kid, you rarely think about other people's experiences. Like you rarely think about like, oh, Joey down the street, his dad's a lawyer. Wonder what that's like. It's just not part of your insight at that age. It really was much, much later when I went to high school and junior high and high school and started hanging out with other sons and daughters of people who were in the entertainment industry, some of which huge movie stars, that and I never thought about it like the towards my dad. I would like I knew Cary Grant's daughter, Jennifer Grant, and it'd be like, oh, you got to meet Cary Grant. It was like, oh my God, Cary Grant, and even my dad would be like, oh my God, it's Cary Grant. My dad was always starstruck also. But
That's
I never
funny.
thought about, and it really wasn't until a little later that I realized the starstruck moment with my dad. Like it wasn't until I really thought back on my childhood that I would see that moment where my mother and I and father would walk into a room together, let's say after a concert or anything, and um, immediately all the energy would go right to my dad and my mother. And what happens then if you're not that person is you disappear to everyone in the room, and it's a very weird psychological moment. I didn't understand I was living that, but that certainly affected me growing up because that became like, oh, I'm just this invisible person in the room. I'm not
Mm.
seen, I'm not heard. What I do or say isn't important, isn't interesting, or whatever the little narrative in my head. And that took me decades to kind of unpack that and let that go.